can go and help yourself. We've got a few polls. We're going to do a poll about creative ads, etc. first thing. And then later on at the end of the day, please stick around, as I want to ask your opinions on how we do the webinars going forward. I'm hoping that we'll be out of lockdown very soon. And I think this is actually the anniversary of our first webinar a year ago. So just to show how long we've been doing these for. As it comes up to 9 o'clock, I'm going to hit the record and we'll start again. And then I'll disappear and let Tom get on with what he's doing, his presentation. So the other thing just to say was you may find, there's somebody said they can't hear. There may be a button that you need to press, or you need to change your volume, or you need to look up in the tab to see whether the sound is muted for this particular platform. I found that I muted it in 1 week, and then the following week I couldn't hear the presentation. We've definitely done more than 50 webinars, Chris, because we've done quite a lot of extra ones for other people. But I will find out if it's our 50th or not. Morning, Sue. Good to speak to you. Good to see you. Okay, let's hit the go button. And have you already hit the go button, Tom, by mistake? Oh, it may have already started.
By mistake, only 30 seconds ago. I do apologise.
Okay, well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Friday's webinar with Anicca Digital. It's myself, Anne Stanley, and Thom Shardlow today, who is going to be talking about creating the best creative springboard for social media. So, as you know, when we start these webinars, first thing, we want to give a little bit of time for everybody to come in. So I'm going to do a couple of polls. So the first poll I'm going to do this morning is to do with whether what capabilities you've got of design within your organization. So I'm going to start polling, and I'm also going to read the questions and answers out. So who is responsible for designing and producing your ads and other creative? So the first answer is, we are not currently creating any ads or creative. I'm here to learn. I'm trying to create ads myself, e.g. using Canva or other free tools. However, I've had no experience or training. Someone else in my team is creating ads, but they have little experience or training. Myself or someone else in our team has experience and training to do design work. Very lucky. We employ a freelancer or agency to do the design work for us. I am a freelancer or work for an agency that does design work for other companies. So what I'm trying to do really is get an understanding what your current levels of knowledges are. So that will help Tom when he does his presentation, so that we know what the level of the audience is. Now, we've got a very strong winner today at 44% at the moment, although I'm sure it will fluctuate a little bit. I'm trying to create ads myself using Canva or other free tools. However, I've no experience or training. So that's by far the most dominant one. The next one is a bit of a split between we're not currently creating ads, someone else in the team is doing so, or we're employing a freelancer. We do have a few people with a bit of experience. That's taken a little bit more time. So actually, the second most popular is you've got somebody in the team or themselves that have some experience. Okay, well, I think that's really useful. I'm going to pass over to Tom now, and I will reappear at 5 minutes to. I will try and answer the chat as we go along. You can put questions in the chat. I may not be able to answer the question, but we can go through them at the end. And just a reminder, you will get the video later on. So good luck, Tom. I'll see you in about 50 minutes.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Anne. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me, and thank you for joining today. Today, we're going to, as Anne said, talk about the best creative springboard within social. So a lot of this information has actually come from third-party platforms such as Facebook to tell us about their best practices in order to achieve the best amplification and engagement. So first of all, just a little bit of an introduction about myself. As you can see, the hire of myself was a complete trophy for my looks and nothing to do with my abilities. So I apologise in advance if I'm talking absolute waffle because, as you can see, I'm just a pretty person. So effectively, I have had 14 years experience within digital marketing. I came from a London agency working with some top brands such as Lexus and British Gas, lots of different things, Adobe and Honda. Then for the last 3 years, been over in North Nottinghamshire, dealing for the social media department at North Nottinghamshire agency. And basically McDonald's.co.uk, everything that you see there came through my team, and also PayPal. So some fantastic experience and working with some really great brands to optimize creative from that first pinpoint within social media, essentially. So joining Anicca as head of strategy is a fantastic opportunity for both myself and the industry that we're in, because finally we get to really get into the nuts and bolts of the actual creativity, with mixing it with the science of all the data, so the PPC and the SEO. So what's amazing about the social aspect is that is our springboard into these things. It's our gate to the websites, to the lead generations, whatever it may be. But are we set up in the right way that this creative asset is doing its job to bring us into that website? More than most, no. But there's some really easy, and it was great to see on the poll that actually you're doing, the large majority of this audience is doing their own asset creation. So this is really about learning the skills, some real basics of what can we do essentially to get the best out of those assets. So looking at the experience that we have across Anicca, we can apply this to many different industry and manufacturing, medical, construction, logistics, automotive. Now, you might think that that's predominant B2B, but we're all users, we're all people, and we are all triggered by the same engagement. And we'll go into a bit of the market of what that means later on in this presentation. But just to get into it, the first bit that we need to know is, who is our audience and who are we talking to? Well, what does that actually mean? We hear this all the time, but just to kind of give a perspective of how complicated that problem is this is what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Is you've got a large predominant sense of children or up-and-coming digital natives that we see that are absolutely influenced by peer pressure. So that's the first thing. I've got a 12-year-old son myself, and he could be any single one of these. He was raised in Burton-on-Trent, but talks like he's from Peckham. So I have no understanding what he's going on about half the time. At the same vein, you've got you go down to any city and you get awash with hipsters. We don't use the word hipster as much in the last 18 months. And it's probably because they've taken over and they've become the norm. Then we've got people trying to outdo one another and look the best, so to speak, within social media platforms. That's really important. Mix that in with the absolute I was going to use the word disgrace, to be honest with you, but you know what I mean by politics, don't we? That's going on. Then you've got the new and up and coming series of things like Love Island, which I'm really excited about. Then some things that are really important to individuals, such as say no to plastic at the moment, and obviously the vegan craze. Then at night, what do we watch and which platform do we watch it on? And then all of a sudden they release Star on Disney Plus. Then we've got the seasons. That isn't me, but it could be. So all of a sudden we've got like things like Christmas and Easter taking our marketing gone mad. To throw that on, there's many different platforms. Fake news knocking about, gender equality, the weather. When will we be able to go back to large events? And finally, fashion. So all of a sudden, we've got all of these mind-blowing aspects that we need to compete with. So how on earth is your asset going to work in clicking somebody to your B2B website? It really does become that. And effectively, discovering is the reason why we go onto social media and we act. And as I say, we've got all of these different things taking our attention away from one another. So what we are looking for, and the great coin phrase that we need to be going after, is we need to create thumb-stopping creative. So the large proportion of social media is digested on mobile. So what do we mean by thumb-stopping? It's that all of a sudden, wow, what is that that's grabbed my attention amongst all of this thing? So I've seen above it, my auntie's got a new cat, and below it, my friend's had a new baby who apparently thinks it's the most cutest on earth. So what's in the middle there that can stop my attention? And effectively, what we need to be aware of is that user mindset. Now I'm going to throw some more confusion at you here in that user, even though it comes under a category of your target audience, has multiple different need states. So what that means is, even though I might be the same target audience that you're trying to attract as somebody sat next to me, I might not have ever heard of your brand, but the person next to me may be invested in your brand. Even though we're the same target audience, we have different need states. I need to be educated about you, whereas my friend next to me, there isn't anybody here, by the way. I'm just saying this. The person next to me needs to know more about the products, the new launches, because he already knows who you are. So all of a sudden, we've got multiple need states. So what we mean by that is we need to create, or it would be advised to create, multiple assets for the same thing to attract these different need states. So there's three, and this is a process coined by Facebook, and effectively they are for the pitch, play, and plunge audience. The pitch audience is your everyday asset. That's making it immediate to get to the many. That is very much about talking generally about who you are on a regular basis. So that might be anything from this is my business and this is what I do, right through to just a logo, right through to something like a post, a picture of your product, so to speak. That's for the people that have never heard of you before. Then you've got the play assets. Now the play assets are, we dare you to be a bit more interactive. Now, what does interactive mean? In the case of social media, it just means some animation, something to grab my attention that makes me think for a second. Remember, we're talking about that thumb-stopping moment. So I can afford, because I know who you are at this point, and I just need that little bit more from you, is I can afford to stop and listen to what you have to say. The pitch asset is for somebody, as I say, nobody that's ever heard of you before. So they need to grab your attention straight away and stop that thumb-stopping moment so that you get them right there and then. Play is, I know who you are. Oh, what are you talking about there? It's a bit of fun. It's almost like bringing in things beyond your brand, for example, like lifestyle, like I don't know, if you're selling furniture, for example, put somebody famous onto one of your chairs, for example. I don't know, whatever it may be, and then cut away. It's good enough for this person, it's good enough for us. That type of interactivity. These are formats such as video, such as Instagram stories, such as Facebook stories, whatever that may be. Plunge for the people that are absolutely invested. They are for the people that know who you are, what you do, and this is long format content. This might be a real, over 30-second video. This might be a link off to a case study. This might be a real big kind of piece of information about the detail of your new product launch or service. So hopefully this is understandable. What I'm trying to say here with different need states is you need to determine who you are talking to first off, and split that asset into three different things. People do not have the time to look at the detail of your product if they don't know who you are as a business. They will just go straight past and look at their auntie's cat, which is the next post down. So hopefully that's made some that's made sense. Obviously, we hold conversations post this webinar to kind of go through that in more detail and make it more specific to you if you'd require it. So talking a bit more about the thumb stopping moments is you've got this thing called essentially the gut reaction. And what we mean by that is that moment where your brain particles say, I'm going to stop on this particular asset. It's somehow grabbed my attention where I need to read what this is. And that's what the gut reaction is. And what we were talking about the audience before, because there's so many different things going on with, the gangsters from Peckham right through to Love Island coming up and all that. Because there's so many different things. What's exciting is the next generation that are coming through are the best data sifters. It's the Tinder analogy of swipe left, swipe right. No, that's not interesting to me. No, that's not interesting to me. Go on then, let's have a look what that is. We have been very, very good at adapting as human beings about sifting through this data. So we really want to grab that gut reaction. And what we mean by that is people have always spoken about this attention span and, what attention span have you got? Well, I'd arguably say that that's not an attention span, but more of an attention muscle. And we have trained that muscle, as I say, through this data sifting, and we've essentially become strong. This attention muscle has really, really got good. So we have to, as content creators, get just as good with grabbing that attention off the individual. So we need to constantly try new things. Now, we liken that to a digital high street, and effectively, the real retail high street, for example, when you're walking down the road and all of a sudden you get to the Apple store. What an amazing experience. Even the tables are 15 grand each. And, it's just amazing. They've thought of every aspect in the user experience. They buy you into that premium product. It's brilliant. Now, if you come out that store and go next door to buy yourself a Twix, then all of a sudden, look at this crazy user experience that has hit you in the face compared to what you've gone from this to this. Now, what? Again, it's really mental, isn't it? But you have to do the same thing within the digital environment, because that, as human beings, this is our history. This is the last 150 years of retail in this country, is that high street. We do the same thing on websites. We leave one and we go to another. So you've got to blame these. If you want to blame your anger at that, you blame these people because they haven't got a product. They've only got a user experience. Biggest taxi company in the world, Uber, don't own one taxi. Deliveroo, they've got their own delivery driver, but they don't have any food outlets. All of their marketing budget pretty much goes into that user experience. Now, as we as users are going from these websites to your smaller website or to your asset on social, it needs to try and be on par with these. And that's difficult because we haven't got their budgets. But there's some tricks of the trade we can absolutely do to kind of push ourselves up. In terms of the commerciality of all this, we are great at tracking click-through rate and analytics and what have you. But what we're not great at is analysing our own creative, because we've got nothing to go against. It's opinion, isn't it? But also, there's other aspects that we can put into place, checklists. So even a non-creative can see, has it got this? Has it got this? Has it got this? No, go back to the drawing board, please, or do better. So this is what we're trying to deal with on an ongoing basis. And believe me, I know it's really, really difficult to kind of get your head around that. But this is why Facebook have the responsibility to take us through. Now, these next bits are kind of created by Facebook, but I'm just going to convert them because they can be quite complicated. Now, when we talk about Facebook as a whole, it might be a dirty word to a lot of people, but really they are the groundbreaker of content, because they formed a social media platform that was meant for you and me and made it a welcome place for brands. So they really are the key to this. And, you know, this transcends across all digital platforms. So you can use this same best practice on anything. So whether that's, you know, blogs or whether it's mobile experience, whatever it may be, this is the same thing that you need to consider with a creative asset. So first of all, these are the 6 things that Facebook tell us we need to consider when creating our assets. And they're great because every single time if you get one of these right, you go up a little bit more in engagement, and it's wonderful. So if we can get that across, then all of a sudden you are onto a winning formula to get more clicks, more conversion, and essentially more ROI. So the first one, branding. Now, a lot of people say in social media, well, it's fine, I don't need my branding in there because I've got my profile picture. I'll show you a quiz later on in this to show that actually that's a very late on thing that you look at is the profile picture. We are talking about the asset itself. So realistically, we need to get that brand up front and central at the start of the asset, whether it's a video, whether it's an image, whatever it may be, an animation. Get your brand up front in the middle, bang, take over the screen. People need to see who you are. They are not, as I've described, going to sit through your video and wait till you're branding at the end, because only you care about your asset. They don't until they've invested into it. So get that attention straight away with your branding up in front. And just to kind of give some statistics, is 59% of mobile first videos introduce the brand up front in the first few seconds compared to 38% of traditional narratives. So people are already doing this. And mobile, and they have 2 times uplift if you bring that up front. So the first 3 seconds, get your brand in the first 3 seconds. The statistics to prove this. So what I mean by that, smash the logo in the front of it the first 3 seconds, but also branding isn't just logo. It's also colorways, it's strap lines, it's images, it's typography. You know, is there something recognizable about your brand? Just make sure you get that up front first 3 seconds. Next is that timing, and you've got to find the balance between that message and the timing. So what that actually means in the literal sense of what time of day you are posting that asset. You know, what's the point of putting that out there at midnight, for example? Know your audience, know when they're live to kind of get optimum engagement, but equally the timing of your asset itself. So what I said about, you know, brand up first 3 seconds, don't mess around about, you know, kind of building a story. Nobody cares. It's almost like telling a joke backwards with social. Start with the punchline. You need to get that pride of place because nobody's going to sit around for the joke itself. So that is hopefully explanatory. Sorry, I'm just getting to the next slide. So mobile first videos are shorter in duration, have a 52% uplift. So people haven't got time. If, especially with a pitch asset, when you're really getting that across, make it short, make it, you know, don't build stories. You can do that later. The temptation is to get the entirety of the story across of your brand, what you do, where you go for it. You've got a channel for that. That's your story there. You've got a website for that. If people want to know more about it, they will click through and read about it. So, you know, generally give what they need in that moment. What is your asset trying to achieve? Next is the attention. Every moment is a chance to capture attention, but equally every moment is a chance to turn off. That's something that they don't say. So make sure you're not waffling. Make sure, like me, make sure you aren't having any delays in your content of, like, you know, try and build the punchline, exactly what I said. Make sure everything's punchy, like every aspect when you go along. And what it means by that, only takes a few seconds to make that impact. We were saying earlier about the data sifters. People consume content 41% faster on a mobile than they do on a desktop. That's crazy, isn't it? Because that is, you've got this channel, a streamlined channel on your mobile. Your attention is purely within that boundary. Desktop, you've got all these different aspects cracking off around you. So that's why, you know, so this is proof in the pudding right here. Then We've got sound. Now, this is crazy, but it took a while to get my head around this, but designing for sound off, but delight with sound on is an amazing thing to kind of go through. So if you're creating a video as your asset, think about, sorry, Richard, what does asset mean? Asset is the actual creative post, the picture that you're putting alongside a social post. The asset is the entirety of that post. So that's the copy that you align with it, the picture or the video or whatever it may be, and the call to action. So that's what we mean by asset. So when you're designing an asset, in this sense, a video, the video to go with that post, you are designing for sound off. So 81%, I believe, at this moment in time, because these statistics are quite old, 81% of content is watched without any sound on. Now, you've got other platforms like TikTok that have come to fruition in the last year that is watched more and more with sound on. But I thought, with us all working from home and being more remote, we'd watch more content with sound on. No, it's not the case. It's still about that data sifting. People watch the content with the sound on. If they make the if they make the commitment to watch more, they will click the sound on. Done. They've invested a bit more. So all of a sudden, one asset becomes two journeys. So that's a really interesting thing. 62% of mobile first videos were designed with for sound off. These videos have the highest aided recall. So that means, you can watch it comfortably without people looking down your neck about, you hearing these weird noises coming from your phone. People are still in that position. 60% of Instagram stories were viewed with sound on. So you can see, obviously, people are transitioning over. But at the moment, 81% generally of video content is watched with sound off. Crazy. Imagine that. So subtitles, creative, using text to come in to your asset, for example, to help tell that story. Remember, keep going back to the fact that nobody cares about you. That's a horrible thing to say, but nobody cares about your asset until they have invested into it. So you need to grab that attention straight away. Then framing. This is interesting. We'll go more into that. Building for where people are. Now, I will show an explanation in a moment as to why I think we should ban landscape assets, which is an asset on, as you can see on that screen grab there. Essentially, it's because it's not taking enough space of the mobile screen up. Social media content is predominantly watched on mobile. So by just making it square, you'll see in a moment from a landscape, the same asset, to square is 9 times more engaging on average. So just by doing that one trick, taking it from landscape to square, 9 times more engagement. Crazy. Anyway, 7 out of 10 tests show that vertical videos drove an incremental increase in lift. Now, what that means is exactly what I just said, is from landscape to square to even beyond. Can you see me through there? See, you can't see my face in that asset, but you can see my face in that asset. It's a lovely face. Anyway, the more you show on screen, the more you take over when you get your asset into that mobile screen. If nobody else is seen below or beneath you, you've got their attention. Simple maths. So framing is absolutely key. The last one is getting out of your comfort zone, okay? Experiment more. Or because you're B2B, for example, doesn't mean to say you toe that corporate line. Remember, you are talking to people. You are not talking to businesses. People are decision makers. Think the things that they are looking at away from work when they go home, for example. Think of the things that they're into: sport, lifestyle, fashion. Experiment more. If you're selling windows, right, show a football being kicked at them. Bring in aspects away from your business. Start playing and testing, because if you don't, then you'll never know, will you? This is the point. So strong design elements stand out. If you think about, there's certain elements as well that I'll show you. We search content up and down, left and right. by bringing in a diagonal motion of movement, whether that's just a shape or whether that's an animation, grabs your attention. So little things like that. That the tricks of the trade. So play more. Start using some creative. Think outside the box. And if you can't, that's fine. But we're here to help people like us. So here, getting back into that platform is really kind of like the formats that you see. So the size of assets you're allowed to post across all of these different channels, which, you know, like I say, I'll go into more detail. Now, what I was saying is now 16:9 is what we call landscape, because it's just a dimension. It's 16 times by 9. Anyway, that's what we call a landscape asset. So as you can see here, they're really tiny, aren't they? So here's a rule to implement with your asset creation straight away. Go away from this particular webinar and start doing this and ban these formats. The ones that are in pink, ban them. Because straight away, by doing square, which is 1 by 1, or 4:5 or 9:16 landscape, they will get you on average 9 times more engagement. I'm sorry, mate, with Pinterest, I couldn't fit Pinterest on without it dropping off. I will add Pinterest just for you. This was just for essentially, you know, just a guide, but they're the same. Pinterest is the same formats as this. Ban landscape from Pinterest as well, please. Thank you. So this is what we mean by this, right? So here's just a quick example. So there's a 16:9. There's a landscape asset. Okay. I can hardly see that road sign. If we take it to square, that's 9 times more engaging than the one before, instantly, just like that. Straight away, same copy, just because you've taken up most of that screen. Look how much more you can see of that asset. Better yet, if you're doing a platform that allows to do video and Instagram stories, what have you, that asset is 3 times more than the one before it. Just by taking up more screen, you've done it. So you can see there, you know, you can see more of that sign. I'm not, you know, it's not hard to gain. That is one trick. Just crimp it, do different things, grab more attention. That's it, simple as that. Now, pop quiz. Here you have an asset where you've got the profile picture at the top and the copy. You've got the content itself, which is the actual asset, and you've got the call to action at the bottom. The call to action is where obviously you click, and that's a sponsored ad. So when you're actually doing an ad, you have somewhere to click to, such as your website. So what do we see first? What do we think we see first? You do it in your heads as users. We see the content first. So as long as you've got, as I said before, your brand in the middle of this, up front, pride of place, then people know it's you. You've got them. Use diagonal movement, use really nice, you know, imagery and color, whatever it may be. Content. What do we look at second? Again, do it in your heads. I'm not expecting you to do this. Copy. Once we've actually seen the asset, we'll go and read about it. So don't think of copy leading creative. Think of it the other way round. So think of it as your copy backs up your creative, your content. So all of a sudden you don't go, you know, here's some chat. People don't read that first. They look at your content first. So use copy as a subheading almost. Use copy as a thing to talk about once they've seen that asset, rather than introducing the asset. So that's really interesting, because they won't read your copy unless your content has brought them in. Next, they look at your logo. That's third. So once they've looked at your content and read your copy, that's when they'll look at your logo, which is why they need to bring in that branding up front in the asset itself to see who you're talking to. One thing you do not want to do is give consideration to competitors. Do not just add imagery of your product or service. Only do that with your brand, your color overtake it. Because all of a sudden, if I'm again selling furniture, I see a picture of a table and it's from Wayfair, for example, I might go, I'm going to go and look at made.com later. That's the consideration that we want, because that's the type of decision-making split seconds that people have. Is all of a sudden they've seen something, they're considering something. So make sure you own your own content. What's the point of doing your own content and giving consideration to your actual competitors? Obviously, finally, there's only one more left, is call to action. Finally, when people have looked at your content, read your copy, seen who it's from, that's when they'll consider clicking. So as long as those things are in place before, you're going to click. Now, can you see now how, I suppose, social media has been really hard to prove ROI? It's because these cardinal sins aren't explored very often. You know, these make sense and they're simple changes to implement. And it becomes a point where it's commercial. You know, before we thought it was opinion. Oh, you know, well, my social, I don't believe in social because it doesn't work for me. Well, are your assets right? Are you doing the right things? Are you actually doing a really good job of posting, but every single time neglect to put your brand on it, so you're giving consideration to competitors? Like, how many times has that kind of come through? I'm sure lots and lots of times. So my challenge to you guys is, you know, go away, play, experiment. And if you feel that you can't, or that's beyond you or time, that's why we as Anicca are here to assist and help, because we look at the entirety of that user journey. So what we spoke about earlier with the likes of Uber and Deliveroo, they don't own products, but they own every aspect of that user journey, from discovery right through to conversion. It's fascinating how they actually got into that mindset. And what we call that is the attention economy. So the economy of my attention the whole way through is from this asset that we've just spoken about, right through to that journey of customer service and that great thing at the end of a review, of a positive review once I've bought something. Sorry, Ismay, does CTA need to be relevant to the different need states you were creating the assets for? Absolutely, fantastic question. So when we go back, I'll just go back ever so slightly. This asset might be for one need state. You can use the same creative content for different need states. So what we talked about earlier, pitch, play, plunge. But you could change the copy and the CTA depending on who you are talking to. So if it's a pitch asset and they need an introduction to your business, it might be a call to action through to just your website or the homepage or about us or whatever it may be. Or whereas play might be something a bit more interactive, like a catalog or a new spring summer collection or whatever it may be. And then plunge would be the technical details of one particular product or service. So yeah, absolutely right. Play, experiment with all of these different things. Run A/B testing, and one aside one another. You know, don't be afraid to say, don't think of one post as an asset. Think of an asset as an entirety of content. So basically, what that means is, have you posted about that product? Yes, I have. I've done one Facebook post and one Twitter post and one Instagram post. Right. We need to stop thinking about that. When somebody says to you, have you posted about that product? You go, yes. I've created 3 posts for Facebook, one for that audience, one for that audience, one for that audience. I've done 4 for Twitter because I thought that there was a different spike in my community. So you start thinking of an asset as a suite, as a mini campaign. Start doing it like that. I know that that's more time consuming, but if you have the time, you will reap the reward for doing that. So go play and experiment. And just to reiterate, pitch, play, plunge. Multiple assets for the same need, for the same product, essentially, just so you're applying to different people. And make it immediate, make it interactive for the curious, and make it immersive for the people that are interested in you. Have we got any questions? I've dived through that far quicker than I was anticipating. But
you have, haven't you? You've gone really, really fast. There are a few things in the, a few questions in the text. What I found really interesting about Thom coming in and joining Anicca is that, as you guys all know from all the webinars and things that we do, we're really into our detail. We're really into the technical stuff. So we tend to work with people that are really technical. And it's sort of attracts like, you know, this is sort of working with people that are similar to yourselves or understand. But interestingly, what you've got to look at is the decision-making group. If it doesn't matter if B2B or B2C, but particularly in B2B, you get people with lots and lots of different roles and responsibilities making a decision. So in our case, we find that often we're talking to the chief marketing officer, the CMO, who's actually really untechnical and has got a million other jobs and wants it almost, I hate to use this word, but almost dumbed down. And so what Tom's been doing is he's been going through our website and saying, don't need that, put that over there. And so hopefully you'll see that some of our assets and creative will be quite different. Okay, I don't know if there's any questions, but I want to catch people before they disappear. Please don't go. Please don't go. I need to ask you some questions. So I'm going to do the polls now about webinars going forward, because it's really important for us as we get to the end of the first year of actually trying to work out what you guys really enjoy. So what I'm going to do is, if Jordana's got a question there, if you can answer that, Tom, while I get the first poll up, that would be really useful.
What size should it be? Oh, sorry. When it came to what size dimensions your asset should be, all the options were ruled out for LinkedIn. What's the best style for this channel? So yeah, it wasn't literal in terms of the absolute. So LinkedIn has a number of different asset sizes. I was just using that as an option. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It does look like they're all blanked out, but there are additional ones. I think I actually blanked out one that I shouldn't have done, to be honest with you, Jordana, on that respect. So just go back to that. There we are. Yes, you're right. So 6.5, keep that on that particular one. That's fine. There is actually a new format size of 4.5 on there as well. So yeah, it's a really, really good one. And Lois had a question further up. I've just seen. What's your opinion on user-generated content? How does your brand center in the case of UGC? Great question again. I think whenever it comes down to UGC, you have a number of different choices of how you use it. You either take that back off them and put it on your own channels, which obviously in that case, you have an option to edit over the top. But then equally, UGC becomes an aspect of need state marketing. So realistically, it's not going to be a pitch asset unless it's to their particular audience. And in that case, they will talk about your brand, won't they? In terms of, you know, if it's an affiliate marketeer, so they hold it up and go, here's such and such I've just got given from X brand. So that is essentially your brand up front. But then equally, just making sure that they're the right kind of partner for you, I suppose, in terms of that. So making sure that you've got those rules in place to brief them with. So if you are asking for UGC on a micro influencer level, which is you and I, people that, you know, don't really make a living from it, then make sure that you are asking them to hashtag or making sure that you are tagging or whatever it may be. But then if you're going up to macro and major influencer level, then obviously you set briefs. So yeah, hopefully that's made.
Cool. Let me start doing the polls because I'm just worried that people might decide to sneak off now that you've stopped talking. So the first poll is, how many Anicca webinars do you think you've attended in the last year? So the first question is, I'm a newbie. This is my first time. This is only my second or third time. 3 to 5 webinars, 5 to 10s, and I'm a regular, so more than 10. Okay, so it's really interesting to see who we've got coming up here. Okay, so it's a reasonably even split. So about a quarter of people are new, so very welcome. Hope you've enjoyed it today. This is only my second or third, so that's another sort of 20%. Then 3 to 5, and then the last is sort of 5. So wow, that's amazing. There's over 20 people here today that, well, nearly a third of you that have been to more than 5 webinars, and 20% do more than 10. So that's amazing. So it's great to have so many regular people here. Let's go to the queue. I've got a few more here. Let me start this one. how do you prefer to select the webinars you attend? This is Anicca's, but others as well from other competitors or companies. I have reserved a spot in my diary for Anicca's webinar, and I try to attend as many as possible. So every Friday, it's in your diary, and if you like the subject, you come along. I look out for the weekly email and register if it is a subject I'm interested in. I only attend on an ad hoc basis if a topic catches my attention. I'm very busy, so I only attend if I'm free. It's a combination of topic and availability, so I might register and have to watch later. I allow a certain amount of time in my diary for education and switch between Anicca and other webinars. Okay, that's really interesting. So about half of you look out for the weekly email and register if it's a subject that you're interested in. About 20% say I only attend on an ad hoc basis if a topic catches my attention. A similar number say it's a combination of topic and availability, so I might register and have to watch it later. And then there's 10% of you that just have it in the diary for every week. So thank you very much. I'm glad we're part of your diary. Perhaps we should give out diaries for people that are regulars. And then my final question is what we should do going forward. And now you can pick a number of these because you might have opinions on different aspects. So I'm sorry, there's lots of choices. Going forward, how would you like us to run the webinars? Please select all relevant answers. Keep on doing what you are doing. Having a regular spot on a Friday works for me. I would be happy with just one webinar a month as I can't attend any more than this. I like the variety of topics so I can pick and choose when to attend. I would prefer a more regular or structured pattern. For example, paid media week 1, social media week 2, search week 3, etc. So sort of some regularity so you know when to expect it. I would prefer a clear difference between introductory, advanced technical sessions. I would like to see some guest speakers, say once a month. I would like to see a few longer sessions so I can deep dive. I would like to see some mixed sessions with some different speakers in the same session. I prefer some more demos and practical sessions such as use of an analytics. I would prefer another day or time to Friday at 9 o'clock. Okay, so lots of choices here. So let me see which are the most populars, and obviously we'll look at the data in a little bit more detail. Well, it's really good. A third of you are saying keep doing what you're currently doing, which is a pretty good vote. There's over 30 people who said that. So thank you for that. The next most popular is I like the variety of topics so I can pick and choose when to attend. A couple of you have said I would prefer more demos and practical sessions. So that's about 15%. Myself and Ed seems to be the main ones for doing that. Not many others have done that. So maybe some practical demonstrations, maybe going into Google Ads or social media. So if anything like that, could you put in the comments? Because that would be really useful in the chat. A few have said you'd like to see some guest speakers, but that's, I guess the conference does that as well. But really interesting mix of people, but it's really nice to know. It's obviously when we go back to the office and things, we were a bit worried that people wouldn't have time. But it's really nice to know that so many of you are keen for us to continue doing what we're doing. I think that's about it for now. Thank you very much for answering all those polls. That's very helpful. So just a few housekeeping. So there isn't going to be a webinar for the next 2 weeks. I'm going on holiday for a week, and I haven't been able to persuade anybody else to be a host because the other people that are used to using the platform, obviously I'm training Tom up to be a host in the future. So I've given everybody 2 weeks off. So we've got a gap for a couple of weeks. I'm guessing a lot of people will be away anyway. So the next webinar is going to be Friday the 16th. And it's going to be, not that I've told him yet, but it's myself and Ed. We're going to present the results of the survey that many of you completed, which was our marketing survey 2021. There's some fascinating information in there and quite a lot of useful data, which you guys will find really helpful. You know, if you've got no idea what other companies do, this is a really useful way of, finding some really useful information. So we should get to that in a couple of weeks' time. And then lots of really great feedback in the chat. So I think that went down very well. So that's great for your first presentation. Lots of positive vibes. And as usual, if any of you who've not given us a review before would like to give us a review, then if you go over to reviews.co.uk by clicking on the button, we'd love you to give us a review. And I promised I'd update that last week, but it's been a very busy week with Tom starting. And there's over 100 reviews now. But if any of you'd like to give a review, and just so that we can thank Tom for his presentation today. And you will hear more from him in the next few weeks. And I think that's everything for us. And you will get a video in a couple of hours.
There was a quick one here with there's a few messages, if you know what I mean, and questions. So I'll get back to those offline.
Would you like to put your email address in the chat, Tom, so that I can do it for you if you like. And if any of you are interested, if you want any of the recordings, we're gradually adding the recordings over at the Resource Centre on the Anicca site and also onto YouTube. So I'll just put the link in for all the old webinars. As somebody asked, I think it was Chris asked earlier on, I think we've done nearly 50 now. So there's going to be a subject in there. Thank you, Susan. That was very quick. So if any of you, there is a filter on there. So it does mean that you can filter by subject and by speaker as well. Okay, well, I'm now waffling, so I'm going to go off and get some work done. Have a lovely weekend, everybody, and have a lovely Easter, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.